All right, we're back with the Enquire PRO show, and I'm joined today by Christopher Gentry. Christopher, how you doing today?
Doing quite well. How you doing, Brian?
Doing great.
All right.
Would love to learn a little bit more about your background. I know you've got some IT, general business consulting, but tee it up. How do you describe and pitch your services?
I definitely describe them as project portfolio and program management, basically strategic consulting services. Do that in a series of working on strategic type plans, working on in service delivery from a company perspective and what it is that they're looking to achieve at the strategic goal and strategic objective level, and helping them to formulate plans in order to drive that into the market or into development or implementation, working with clients, whatever that life cycle is that's important to them. So a pretty good business, very lucrative.
You've been in consulting for about 8 years now. What has changed and evolved over that time, and at what point did Enquire get on your radar?
What's changed and evolved over that time is whenever you get a economy, so first off, let me step back. Consulting is one of the professions that is heavily tied to the economy. When there's companies that are pursuing new projects, new endeavors, going after new businesses, then consulting is quite lucrative because you need subject matter experts that really know how to drive whatever that specific mission may be, or any of the technology or products behind that service or that merger and acquisition. However, when the economy is not doing so well and people are looking at saving money, pinching pennies, etc., happens is the consulting world kind of dries up. Just as you've recently seen over the last year or so, there's been a lot of consultants that have been released from their companies and from their contracts. So it's always a business that is heavily affected by the economy, but it's always a business I say that is worth it, because if you're a good consultant, it's kind of like, I say consulting is a lot like, going to the chiropractor. The good ones work themselves right out of a job, but if you're that good, then people will come back. Right. And so it's where you get out there, you do a great job, you establish a reputation, and then one day a more consistent stream of revenue and more consistent stream of opportunities and pipeline happen to land on your table, then you feel really good about the consulting career. But up until that point, you're pretty much begging for consistency. So that's just the way it works.
How long did it really take for you to catch and kind of feel that consistent work coming in?
It's still hit and miss at times. It was really great. It took about 5-6 years, or it started coming in and people were realistically looking for me and they were familiar with me and my name and my brand and what I was doing. Then COVID hit, and sliced all of that right down to about zero. And so, I'd say stay out there. One of the things that you definitely have to do is put yourself out there uncomfortably. Wrote for 5 years before anyone had ever taken interest in any of my writings, which is one thing as a consultant you can do: white papers, articles, anything out there to get your knowledge and your work out there. And then, just staying in, you don't have B2B business, then what you have to do is establish a pipeline of people who can give you that corp to corp or 1099 opportunities, and take the W-2s if you have to as well. It really doesn't matter how you feed your family, but the point is that you have to be in someone's ear in order for that door to open one day. And however you get there, take as many, communication channels as possible to spread your awareness.
That makes a lot of sense. I've heard that described as the surface area of luck and how to expand that, because you just never know what's going to lead to the next opportunity for you.
Well, now we're in a world where opportunities are definitely bogarted by the larger companies. So even if they're small companies and they're looking to save dollars, still looking at hanging on to the possibility of there's a larger company, with more experts and more, potentially more expertise, versus I could save a little cost by working with a small and mid-sized firm, or an independent consultant who happens to be available in the market. Those opportunities are getting rarer and rarer every day. So you have to be in the ear of somebody in order to keep this thing going.
Well, that's great. So talk a little bit about, because I know you are relatively new to Enquire. How does this fit into your business strategy?
For me, it's definitely a part of marketing. part of spreading the brand awareness. So when I started working with Enquire, a lot of curiosity around consulting, how consulting works in the real world. I think that there's a lot of individuals that don't truly understand that it's a roller coaster.
Uh-huh.
There's nothing that is guaranteed, granted, or consistent when you move from working behind a company that gives you that kind of FTE, W-2, a reassurance that you're always going to get a paycheck, into moving into a business model where you are working for all of this completely on your own.
Uh-huh.
And when that's misunderstood, a lot of individuals only look at the dollar amount. You know, for instance, I'll say, you know, while I was making $60 an hour, you know, quote unquote under salary working for my company, and now I get an opportunity to make 95. It's worth it. Are you sure? You know, that those are the type
What
of
about all those
questions.
hours when you make zero?
You know, exactly.
Yeah.
So those are all of the unique scenarios that people got very curious about. And I just happened to join at a time where, you know, it was just back-to-back questions about the life of a consultant. And so I had an opportunity to work with Enquire. Enquire actually pays for when you, they compensate for when you answer questions, your subject matter expertise. So it was really awesome to have an opportunity to work with Enquire, answer the curiosity questions, and be compensated for that as well.
So thank you. And then when it comes to Enquire, you know, one thing that can be kind of nice in the consulting world, but I'm curious about your experience with it, is that you don't necessarily have to go out and do all the hunting for it. You know, it is something that is delivered to your inbox. So yeah, have you been able to work that into your workflow and kind of the plan of your day when those opportunities come up from Enquire?
Yeah, oh, absolutely. They come straight to the inbox and it tells me exactly what it is. And I just click on it and, you know, get logged in. And, you know, there's always a limit to the amount of characters that you can put when you respond to the questions. And I think that's fantastic because you box things, it makes people focus. So when I look at it, I always have an opportunity to look at that, say, I'm interested in answering that, and then spend about, you know, on average about 20, 25 minutes because I want it to sound great and I want it to be, you know, knowledge and wisdom and competency filled when I respond to the questions. So I do put a little bit into it, but it's worth it every time. And so I
I'm
always
curious.
make,
Yeah, yeah. Have you gotten any additional opportunities past that, you know, first level engagement? I know some people do. It just depends on the field, I think.
you know, I definitely do think it's something that depends on the field and the type of questions that I answer. They're very plentiful in terms of subject matter expertise that's out there. There's a lot of individuals that they have consulting experience working from, you know, XYZ firm that's, you know, either a big four or whatnot. I have a lot of the experience starting a small, or should I say, a one-person firm from the ground up, right? So my perspective's a little different, which is why I think it's really valuable to have that other perspective. I definitely believe that there's a lot of individuals on Fire or any platform that have a lot of experience working with consulting companies, but not a lot of experience in the entrepreneurship starting a consulting company. So that's always the perspective I think is unique to me.
That's great. So tell me, if you were to go back and talk to yourself 8 years ago, kind of before jumping into consulting, what are some of the things that maybe you were aware of at the time that either bore out or proved not to be true? And what are the things that have kind of surprised you over the course of your journey?
I would likely tell myself, don't go into consulting. Be honest with you, would tell myself that because when it happened was for me, I had left a full-time job, Dell, 6 months before they decided to allow people to work remote, authorize it. So I was 6 months early and I was moving to Las Vegas to put my family back together. I lived here in Austin, Texas, and my wife and my newborn son had lived in Las Vegas because she had taken a job out there. And
Uh-huh.
I did not want to keep the family separated. I had a great job and I was working for a great company. So a gentleman who had lots of consulting experience and we had a very close relationship sat down and talked about the benefits of consulting and how it can really lead to more and a wider array of opportunities, but he didn't touch on any of the roller coaster that I was about to go on. So I
Wow.
had to learn all of that myself. I learned all of that the hard way. And he ended up a guest on one of my podcasts that I have, and I let him know, hey, I really wish you would have filled in
Right.
those gaps. I really
Right.
wish you would have. But from a consulting perspective, here's what I would tell anybody. I would tell everybody, don't try to go at this alone. Worst thing that you could do is try to work everything by yourself and not understand that you are a business. You are your own business at that point. So you need a pipeline of people who are advocating for you. Whether they work for you or not is not the point. The point is you need someone to spread the awareness of who you are. Otherwise, those opportunities will never be found. And then the second thing I would say is, make sure that you have someone who's done that to, been on the journey before you to help you understand the pitfalls and how to plan for them. I was gracious enough to have connections with individuals, or should I say, not gracious, but was extrovert enough to have
Mm-hmm.
connections with people who had done consulting before. So they told me, establish a brand, understand who you want to work with, about 6 months of finances saved up in your bank account, understand the business services you need, and make sure that you narrow it down to just those services. Treat everything else, because everyone and their mom's coming at you to try to get you to buy something once they find out you're the founder of something.
Right.
Make sure that you are adamantly staying involved in people who can spread your awareness, not once, but continually. And I think that's the key to the whole consulting career, is finding out people who have the energy and who have the pipeline to consistently say, hey, this Christopher over at Christopher Global, he specializes in strategic portfolio management. You seem like you need something like that. And those are the type of engagements that will lead to further opportunities in your pipeline. The worst thing that you could do is just get stuck in a need to fill a job,
Mm-hmm.
just some regular sourcing company trying to just fill a job. This company needs a project manager. This company needs a product manager. This company needs an assistant. And you're just working all these jobs. It's the worst thing you can be caught in, because then it just looks like you're job hopping.
Mm-hmm.
You have to understand how the world is working. Whenever someone is looking at your resume, they don't understand you own your own business and you're starting a consulting company. They think you're job hopping too, because they think from the mind of an FTE. They don't think from the mind of, this is the value that an individual has provided for another company. So you always have to, understand that and avoid that as much as possible. When it comes down to it, you have to feed your family. So you have to take those gigs too.
That's right.
Understand that that's the paradox that you're going to live in until you start capturing business to business clients. And once you fully understand that, then you can make the educated decision of whether or not you want to pursue consulting.
I think that's great advice, and I'm in the same boat. I wish that I had seen the full picture before I jumped into that as well. But you know, one thing that I found is that when you find those right people who are willing to be your advocate, the thing I always say when people, if I do pro bono work or kind of go above and beyond, is, hey, speak kindly of me in rooms that I'm not in,
Yeah,
and that's the name
great
of the
way to put
game.
it.
That's
Great way to
that's
put it.
yeah. Well, that's great. So since I know you've thought deeply about this and you have good insights on it. That's kind of where consulting has been, both your experience and probably for a lot of others that resonates as well. Where do you think consulting is going? And I'll leave that open, but the world is changing. So where do you see the role of the small consultant, single man team, small firms going in the next few years?
We got to stop jumping to the conclusion of, everything's going to fall off one day. I think that if you're anywhere around 40, like, you've seen the way that the world revolves, right? Like, the economy drops, then there's some type of technology that's going to bring it all up, and usually it's AI, right? And
Uh-huh.
then all of a sudden you realize one day there's a bunch of promises in AI, or it's a free product for the most part. How's a free product going to save the whole world? there's always a revolving life cycle to what happens. So the economy drops, there's some product that's going to save the day. Then we realize it's not going to be that product. The economy recovers. Then all of a sudden we stop talking about that product. And then we want more people to deliver more technology that we were working on while the economy was low. And then all of a sudden there's money to be made. The consulting world opens back up. There's more and more demand for people with specialized skills. And then there's more and more demand with people skills because we wrote all this technology. We fired all the people who had the people skills. Now we need to bring them back so we can please our customers. And then the economy falls again and we let all those people go and then we restart the cycle, right? So we're just in the cycle. I mean, if you're anywhere around 40, I think you've likely seen the cycle at least 3 or 4 times in your lifetime. You just don't identify it as that. So the consulting world, from my perspective, is just on pause while people figure out what is the new technology, what is the new investment of tomorrow that's going to save their company from crumbling right now. But when people start, or should I say, when businesses start reopening their wallets to B2B services and products, consulting is going to open right back up. And it's going to be as lucrative as it was before, and less specialized. Now it's just very specialized in, Oracle, SAP, ERP type products and, type of that. So that makes it tough for anybody. But when everything changes, it'll go back to normal or some flavor what normal used to be. I'll put it that way. So I think it'll definitely be here in the long run. There's always going to be companies that they just don't have the bandwidth to hire, like for instance, SAP experts as part of their staff and payroll when they can pay maybe 50,000 of that and get SAP to install the software in their company and train them. And that's where consultants come in. So there will always be that business model. It's just drying right now, but it'll get back to it someday. I think everyone just has to wait this out. We never know how long it's going to take because there are powers that be that are out of our control. But we know that in the meantime, while we wait this out, we can always equip ourselves with new skills and learn new technologies that'll help us to be better consultants when that demand starts to see an uprise. So that's all you can focus on and just make it through the days.
I think that's a great answer. So since you brought up AI anyway, I also do not have any sort of doom review on AI. I'm curious what has been your approach to it as the technology has kind of come up in the last few years and really become accessible and sort of commoditized and how do you see that changing the consulting game from here?
I don't. I see AI as a technology that a lot of folks don't understand is very historic. I think what happens with AI is I'm a professor as well. I've seen my profile. I've been teaching for 11 years. And one thing I always tell individuals that are seasoned is if you don't tell the young folks what the history of a product is, they'll make it up on their own. So one of the things that I have definitely gone back and forth with my own son about is he thinks AI is, it's this new thing. It's exciting. It's incredible. It's going to take all these people's jobs and et cetera, et cetera. And then I have to be the one to come in and say AI has been around since 1972.
Every bit of that, right? Yeah.
So we're all still here. Yeah. We all still have jobs.
Yeah.
And while there is some cost savings to be made, you also have to look at what are people willing to pay for. AI sounds really good until you realize that you're removing the human experience in places where human experience was the reason why the demand existed in the first place. For instance, when you go to the movies and people like the idea of, there being a guy sitting there waiting, hello, welcome to so-and-so theaters. And then you go to the snack machine or you go to the counter and you get to order the popcorn and your kids get to hold it and you get to share it with your wife and all the overpriced candy that you're always complaining about, but it makes, him or her happy. So you get it anyway. There's that whole real human experience. And then you get to the gate and there's a person there to rip your ticket and say, have a great day. And all of that's being replaced now by little touch POSs if you're an older generation, you're already frustrated because you're like, this ain't jam. And then there's no human experience. And so now you see a decline of movie theaters.
Mm-hmm.
So I think AI has a solid, solid potential to do some great when it comes to some technological things. Like there's developers that can now write code in just an hour versus spending days on it. They can literally talk to their AI assistant. It can write them a program that's like 80% accurate.
Mm-hmm.
But then there will never be a substitute for human experience that
Mm-hmm.
humans will jump on board and co-sign. I don't want to be what you're saying, Elon, but I really don't like the idea of being in a driverless taxi.
Uh-huh.
Sorry, sounds frightening,
Right.
right? So
Yeah.
there's always those type of things where you have to look at AI and say, okay, common sense now, like, are you really going to do that? Like, you're really going to go to a restaurant. Nobody ever is going to come to the table. It will just never happen. I just order everything from a little touchpad and something brings it out. And, never anybody to talk to. There's never any welcome here. There's never any, can I take your order, or what can I get you? Or just going to not go to those establishments. And the big of a buzz is AI and technology. People try to make themselves sound because technology always has to be selling the next thing there. They always have to be
Uh-huh.
selling the next thing and hyping it up. The reality of the situation is people actually like people. Even the people that don't like people, they actually like people sometimes.
Right.
And if you're trying to get rid of that, you're just creating a world it's just not going to be the truth. It just won't. So that's truly how I feel about AI. For the tool that it is, use it for the product that it is. But we ain't going nowhere.
That's right.
And technology is, from my perspective, one of the only industries that's overly concerned about the impact of AI. I don't hear healthcare really talking about it.
Mm-hmm.
I don't hear vitality, travel, and leisure really talking about it.
Mm-hmm.
Hear oil and gas talking about it. It's just technology. But, contrary to their popular belief, they don't run the world. So,
I like it. I like that approach. And I will say too, I mean, listen, there's a reason why Chick-fil-A is like iconic. It's because of their customer service, it's how they treat other people. And
yeah, they
you know
got they
that
got kids out in 100-degree weather, but they give them awnings.
they
Thank
do.
the
They
Lord.
do.
They give them awnings and fans and whatnot, and they ask them if they want to be out there, which is even more excellent. And they're one of the most highest grossing restaurants across the entire country because they focused on the people relationship and experience of coming to Chick-fil-A.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah, and if I can stand on the Enquire soapbox for just one moment,
Mhm.
I think keeping humans in the loop, keeping your expertise in the loop, has always been a key component of where Enquire is going as a company. That first, they built sort of the traditional expert network, but the reality is that as technology has opened more doors and more opportunities, that the people become more important, not less. It is the expertise of the network, of the people that they've assembled, of the ones that they continue to recruit, that is really what makes it special, and that it isn't just another off the shelf off the shelf big box AI chatbot. That this is something
Right.
where you are using technology to bring people closer together, and that's really where I think all AI and really all innovation kind of leads to is
Mhm.
how can we keep humans in the loop? How can
Yeah.
we access people on the other side of the globe that we would never be able to talk to just because we crave that interaction so much? So I think you've got a lot of wisdom there. So really appreciate you
I
sharing that with
definitely think that, just to piggyback on what you said there, I
us.
definitely think that it gets pitched totally wrong. And
Mm-hmm.
like you said, being able to interact with people across the globe is something that, yeah, we have all the opportunity to be able to do, but yet somehow it's been pitched as something that's fearful. That's ridiculous. If you think about all the trillions, and I don't know what's after trillions, but trillions is enough of dollars that are available in the world. We have enough money for everyone to be a millionaire, like
Hmm.
just worldwide, you know what I mean? But seems to get kind of twisted and kind of perverted into this belief that, you have to be somewhat of an innovator, somewhat of a whatever technical expert, a product SME in order to ever accomplish and capture that. You forget that there's tools that you can use like AI where you can say, hey, can you tell me what is the most lucrative products right now that are being created, distributed, and sold in the country of, or should I say, the continent of Australia? And it'll tell you. So,
Hmm.
okay, thank you, AI. Please tell me companies are mass distributors of this product. It'll tell you. Okay, can you search LinkedIn or search the internet for these individuals, might be the heads of these departments? It'll do it. So there's a very simple tool, and yet we're totally afraid of it.
Very true. Very true. I think the other thing that's interesting too, and it's a lack of imagination because it is hard to imagine what doesn't yet exist. But the reality is that every time we've taken huge leaps forward, whether it's the industrial revolutions or just other major technological breakthroughs, there has what has corresponded with an increase in productivity is not job loss, but actually job creation. Just different jobs, different points of emphasis within a company, as you mentioned. If there's a highly technical company and they can do their coding in 1/10 the time, well, then where do the pain points of the company then come in? And it might be on the customer service side, like you mentioned. It might be on the sales side. It might be other things. So, opportunity has never, or I should say, technology has never removed opportunity. And maybe this one will be something different, but I kind of doubt it. I think it's going to be a reallocation of human capital after this, and we'll probably be better off for it. But I tend to agree with you on a lot of that.
Yeah, I mean, there will definitely be less need for, 100 developers world working for the same company. But then you take those skills and you move them, as you mentioned, reallocate them to a new business line ultimately,
Hmm.
where, new product or service has to be developed. Always have to continuously find and innovate new ways to generate new revenue. There just won't be a need for teams of 50 working on the same product. Now you can get by with a lean team of, 6 to 8 and pretty much service any product that's coming around. That doesn't mean we need to be scared of what we're modernizing into. I think that we certainly just need to continue to understand that no matter what we create, there's still foundations that necessarily need to be ignored.
Right.
For instance, you're a developer. Are most of these languages modernizing into? They're all basically not modernized. You know
Right.
what I mean? So there's still a need for people, and I just saw one today where it's like, hey, we still need people that code in C. As much as people are talking about Java and talking about, all these different languages, why do you still have C out there?
Hmm.
Right? Because it's not going anywhere. Why do you still have COBOL? Because it's still systems that are on COBOL.
Hmm.
So, we will always have that need, but it just might not be at the type of companies that you're accustomed to working to or working with. And so the adjustment is on you per se, and finding where your new niche is going to be. And as a consultant, that's difficult to do. Sometimes there's only 24 hours in a day and you need to sleep. But like you said, once you get people working for you, it definitely becomes a beautiful thing.
Love that. That's great. Well, I'll leave you with the final word here today. Really appreciate your time and insights. But what would you say for anyone who is considering getting onto Enquire Pro and anything that you're excited about in the upcoming, I don't know, whatever you have coming up next. Anything you want to plug before you jump?
I do a newsletter for my potential clients. I have a newsletter list that I send out twice a week, and it just talks about a lot of strategic and, product to service delivery focus. So I cover everything on the life cycle of product and service delivery. So whether that's from strategy, project, program, portfolio management, the environment, the culture, I always pitch that out twice a week. And my thoughts on that, not AI generated. I write them all myself.
Good man.
If I were to say, if someone was getting ready to jump on Enquire, you need patience, right? You understand that when you go onto a platform like Enquire, yeah, you have your day job, but on Enquire, you're a consultant. And it takes time to build a line of curious individuals who would not only want to engage you as a question, but then, have an opportunity to answer a lot of questions and maybe look for a little small compensation of what you're looking for. That stuff takes time. And then there's seasons where it's hit and miss. More individuals are more interested in other things than they might be in whatever your expertise is. And so if you're coming into Enquire, understand that patience is going to be the number one thing you have to have. It's going to take time, probably quite a bit more than what you be thinking that you might get. Like when I joined Enquire, it was because there was just one question talk about the gig economy for independent consultants. And that was enough for me to jump on there and say, yeah, I'll answer the question. But I didn't look for anything more. But if you are looking for something more, then understand that there's a network there that you're going to have to manage like a network. So, it's going to be as lucrative as what you put into it is what you're going to get out of it. And understand that, my perspective, I like Enquire. I like answering those questions that are high caliber and of high quality. But there's also how many more networks I can entertain.
Uh-huh.
So understand what you're getting into from.
Love that. Christopher Gentry, thanks so much for joining us, and really appreciate you. And we'll be in touch in the future.
You got it. Thank you so much.